In a comparative analysis between the leadership of Dmitry Medvedev, president of Russia since 2008, and Nursultan Nazarbayev, president of Kazakhstan since the nation received its independence in 1991, we can see that democracy is far more imminent in Russia, though this may just be an illusion. Nazarbayev's longtime role as president has created a stagnant political climate in Kazakhstan, therefore hindering any hopes of a democratic future. Medvedev was born into a world of intellectuals. His mother taught Russian language and literature, and his father was a physicist. He grew up in Leningrad, one of the Soviet Union's most liberal cities in the late 80s, and remained there to earn his law degree. He demonstrated early forms of pro-democratic activism, campaigning for one of his former professors who was running for parliament. Very different from Medvedev, Nazarbayev was born into a peasant family. He joined the Communist Party in the early 60s with the hopes of advancing his professional career. He was an active member of the Komsomol and continued on to become an economist. Just as both leaders experienced very different upbringings, a clear distinction can also be made between Medvedev's modesty and Nazarbayev's apparent hunger for power today. Medvedev's rise to power is unique, as he was the successor of Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin had a bad reputation at the end of the Putin era. Putin's restrictions on civil liberties and media and centralization of power were seen as a dictatorship and viewed as undemocratic by most of the outside world. Upon his election, Medvedev was viewed optimistically as a catalyst for change. Putin continues to serve as prime minister under Medvedev today and is still a major actor in Russian political life. Medvedev's power is an illusion. His liberal rhetoric has led to no action whatsoever. He has been called Putin's puppet. Instead, Medvedev's only purpose was to improve the image of the Russian political system. In a recent New York Times article, Mr. Putin announced that the two men had made an agreement several years ago that the presidency would be handed back to Putin in 2012. Apparently, Medvedev as merely a placeholder has been planned all along. Medvedev's legitimacy as president has been undermined, and his plans to democratize Russia were only an illusion, ultimately cycling power back into the hands of Putin. Nazarbayev's regime has been characterized by political immobility. Parliament has granted him a referendum to extend his term to 2020, making him the longest-serving leader in the states that once made up the Soviet Union. Immediate and radical change did, however, occur in the Kazakh economy following its independence in 1991. Nazarbayev proposed reforms that would set his country on the path to immense prosperity, gaining international clout on the way. His reforms were based on the Asian Tiger model. After visiting Seoul in 1991, economic framework was drawn to emulate South Korea's path to economic development. He recognized that in order to do this, he must exploit the state's most abundant natural resource, using oil as an economic engine. Kazakhstan is the largest oil and gas reserves in the Caspian Sea basin, and today has the potential to produce 1.5 million barrels of oil a day. Laws encouraging foreign trade and investment were passed, and foreign oil companies began lining up to get their share of the new energy supply. Capital began flowing into Kazakhstan with the multi-billion-dollar deals Nazarbayev was making with investors like Chevron. With oil comes corruption. In 2003, United States prosecutors charged James Giffen, an American businessman and ex-advisor to Nazarbayev, with funneling $78 million in bribes from oil companies to Kazakhstan's top leaders. Freedom House has ranked Kazakhstan 169th out of 196 countries in a recent survey of civil liberties, political rights, and economic freedom. Clearly, oil is an autocrat's best friend. Nazarbayev can continue exercising his democratic shortcomings without much of a word from developed nations because the costs of these shortcomings are outweighed by the benefits the West receives from Kazakhstan's friendly foreign policy. In 2010, Kazakhstan was the first ex-Soviet state to be awarded the rotating chairmanship of the OSCE, an organization whose goal is the promotion of democracy and human rights. We see over and over again in the world we live in today the corrupt relationship that exists between oil and autocracy. In conclusion, it seems that Medvedev has been unable to live up to his full potential as a democratic leader because of his role as Putin's puppet. While his ideologies and campaign strategies were hopeful in suggesting political change, this turned out only to be an illusion intended to improve the image of Putin's regime. Without oil, Nazarbayev would not have been able to pursue his liberal economic reforms with such optimism and strife. The establishment of Kazakhstan as a petro-state has minimized much pressure from the global community for Nazarbayev to adhere to democratic norms.